This is how it begins, or so they say.
Just please make sure there won't be any other mishaps, ma'am. My team would be more than happy to help you then.
You worry too much. Let me handle those things. Do be thrilled, though. I imagine it's not every day you get projects like this,
On the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it.
You heard her, love. She's busy.
What a shame. You never let me do anything fun.
You can head back to the car first if you want, Luke. I hope that settles everything, Rose. I don't know what Isabel's problem is, but please make sure she doesn't hurt herself. Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Likewise, ma'am.
Begins normally enough,
Isabella, I don't have time for this. Open up!
or as normal as shouting outside her room could get this early in the evening. And on a Monday, no less. This isn't how I wanted to start my week, but here I am trying not to make a fool of myself in front of anyone who happens to pass by. I'm not even sure if our landlady's home yet, and I sure hope not. She won't like this ruckus. But it's not like we haven't had an argument before. We have. Plenty of times. There's that one time with the groceries, and another that has something to do with the mess in her room. Sometimes it has to do with my eating habits or her eating habits. There's also the one in the movie house a few days ago. That one got resolved pretty uneventfully. Or so I'd like to believe. She seems to be in a good mood when she asks us all out for that little celebratory treat. Anyway, the point is, we didn't go through 5 years' worth of being friends without having a little argument here and there. Granted, it can be pretty petty at times, but none of them has pushed either of us to end this friendship. Yet. Although most of them do end up with her sulking in her room until I pull her out of it. A child through and through. This morning, however...
You're still not going to believe me, even if someone else already died, no?
It really comes to a point when you need to smack some sense into people. It's murder. The authorities said so. And yet she's still going on about the Halloween prank like it's that bloody letter's fault.
It's a piece of paper, Isabella. What can a piece of paper do? Give you a paper cut? I swear, you can be so frustrating at times.
I know Rose is a close friend of her, but she's doing her death a huge disservice by being like this. Taking out my mobile, I could dial her number, and sure enough, her own rings from the other side of the door. I don't hang up in case something possesses her to answer her. To answer her, she's just sleeping. But I've been going at this for 15 minutes now. If she didn't hear me after that, she sure as hell is ignoring me. On purpose.
Isabella, I know you're in there. Can you please stop this nonsense? You're acting worse than my students when they're throwing a tantrum. You're not a kid anymore.
A minute. And another. Then I'm ending the call while fishing out a copy of her key from my bag, unlocking the door. She lent it years ago after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary then. After all, I could always knock. But she never did bother taking them from me. Always remembering returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insisted. At one point, I simply stopped trying to hand it back to her. Good thing I did. Now her stubbornness is coming in handy. For once, she did something right. Miracle of miracles, isn't it?
Isabella, I'm coming in and we are going to talk.
Without waiting for her answer, I push the door open and march inside. Her lights are off. Although the telly is running, it merely gives the room a dim glow. Dimmer than it used to be, in fact, mainly due to its age. She bought that set from a second-hand store nearby. It's been with her since she started living here, though she doesn't really watch anything on it. Even on weekends, she doesn't seem to have any use for it. It's just for background noise, so the place won't be as quiet if she's working at home. She told me before how much she misses the clamor of the city, and here in Samwell, it's just quiet everywhere. That silence bothered her more than anything new and unfamiliar she encountered in her first year here. If the rent wasn't cheap, she probably would have moved away already. It's an odd side of hers, but there are worse ones.
Like when she's moping.
I find her sitting at her work desk, bent over the mess of papers and folders littering the top, nose almost touching the papers she's working on. On one end, you can make out the silhouette of a stack of empty noodle cups, though I fight the unexpected urge to wrinkle my nose at the sight. Her cleaning habits are also the least of my concerns right now. I can reprimand her later for it. But first, we talk and put an end to those silly misconceptions she's been feeding her mind.
We need to talk about this letter nonsense.
She doesn't answer. She doesn't move. She's giving me the silent treatment because I won't buy her little horror story. Just the thought of it irks me and prods my already short temper. And with each second that passes, it grows even shorter.
Isabella, I know you're busy. I'll let you go back to your work once we sort this out. You can't keep going on like this.
Still no response, and slowly frustration begins to seep into my tone.
Why must you always be so difficult?
Then, anger.
I'm telling you to listen to me. Oh, will you face me? I'm talking to you, Isabella.
Without warning, I've given her ample number of those. I'm marching across her room, each of my strides brisk and heavy with purpose when it's not stepping on the apparent wet mass that forces my whole body to freeze. Rather, it's the sudden smell permeating in the air. Bitter, sharp, thick enough that I can almost taste it. My hand hastily goes to cover my nose, but even then the acrid smell still reeks, like the smell of iron reacting to the skin when rubbed, like blood. My gaze shifts to Isabella's back, head still bent over her table unmoving. In this light, I can't get a good look at her, but I know for sure she won't simply leave a puddle here. Not when she's working on papers you could accidentally spill on. A puddle of what, though? I don't want to make any hasty judgments yet, despite what my mind screams at me. It could be anything. There could be a leak somewhere, or whatever. But despite what I tell myself, fear easily worms its way to my voice when I call out to her again.
Isabella?
Something heavy lodges itself to my throat.
Belle?
Sound of my heartbeat thrashes against my ears.
Belle? Answer me! Please!
With a trembling hand, I reach for her shoulder, and gently as I can, I turn her around. My heart stops. The chill runs down my spine. Every edge, every corner in the room suddenly goes sharp. I can't breathe. And before I know it, my horrified scream ripples through the air. A few hours afterwards, the whole place dissolves into chaos. Nameless people in white suits moving in and out of the room. Fellow tenants crowding the nearby hallway to get a glimpse of whatever's inside. Paramedics and police officers trying to corral a growing group downstairs. At some point, nosy journalists have started flocking in, likely for a scoop. Because it is a scoop, no matter how much I want all of them to stay away. To not look at her.
Not like this. That isn't how you should see her.
It's a commotion. But amidst the ambulance's bright flashing lights, the murmur of the curious bystanders, barely any of it registers. Hell, I can hardly remember anything when my landlady pulls me out of the room. I don't feel her hand against my shoulder as she ushers me out. I don't hear her muttering reassurances. Is it a gentle touch of comfort? How does her voice sound? They all come out empty. Each and every one of them falling hollow on my deaf ears. Because she's gone. She's gone. And I can't even bring myself to shed a single tear. Much as I will myself, no matter how much I repeat the words in my head, none of it will come out.
What's wrong with me?
You're in shock. We're friends, aren't we? I should be crying. If not, I should be angry at whoever did this to her. Anything. Anything better than this cold, empty feeling at the bottom of my stomach. Anything better than standing around here like a useless numpty that I am, watching all of these people zip by and examine her like she's just some other victim.
Female, around 20 to 25 years old.
26. Distant.
Time of death must be less than 5 or 6 hours ago.
Impersonal.
Cause, still unknown.
Everything about her now broken down to ruthless statistics. She has a name, damn it. She has friends here. She has a family waiting for her back home. Someone please.
Crime scene?
Second floor, sir. Just upstairs. Second room after the stairs.
Ashton?
Hold on a sec. Did you say second room after the stairs?
Yep, that's how Ash finds out.
Exactly what I said, sir. CSM should be there to brief you further on the scene. But, if I may, Inspector, you really don't want to see the body right now. Inspector Abigail had to excuse herself for a while after, you know.
I'll be the judge of that. Thanks.
His voice drifts from the stairs from below. Below falls like a splash of cold water on me. Somehow, at the familiar note of it, the world that has suddenly tilted sideways has righted itself. Every color, every sound rushes back in, and my head immediately snaps up in search of him. Another officer stops him upon reaching the door, but a quick show of his badge is enough for him to allow him in. He doesn't waste any time. Ash quickly makes a beeline for the room and passes by where I'm standing, without so much as a glance. He doesn't seem to have noticed me. His steps are even and sure as he walks by, his jaw clenched in a tight line, a complete departure from the easygoing air he gives off when he's with us. Like this, it's hard to think of that Ashton and the one in front of me as the same person. But a worried crease on his forehead, a stiffness in the line on his shoulders, and I know the moment that expression is on him that this news should not just come from some crime scene manager. I should say something. I need to say something. Call out to him. Stop him. Because more than anything, he shouldn't be the one taking on this case. He may be someone who will understand how I feel about this, who knew the kind of person Isabella was. But will he be able to go at this with the same passive indifference his associates have? Of course, I'd never doubt his capability. That's a given, and he's already proven that more than once. But this may not be easy for him. What should I do? How should I even put it? I was the one who found her. The one who saw her first. Okay. Telling the rest of the group should at least be my responsibility. Lessen the blow for them as much as I can. Otherwise, they'll simply hear it from the news, delivered in the same uncaring manner as if she has never been a huge part of our lives these past few years. I'd like to save him from that pain.
Ashton, wait!
Ashton stops dead in his tracks, turns, his worried expression dissolving into confusion.
Rebecca? I thought they... Are you alright?
Yeah, I'm good. But Ashton, in that room.
The words refuse to form. My mouth opens and closes, yet even with my earlier resolve and a will to force them out, they still don't. All of them still lost in the haze of gory images and the acrid tang of blood. I shouldn't have assumed this would be easier. Shame fills me, especially with that tiny glimmer of hope he carries in his gaze, the searching look on him as if he's expecting to hear some good news from me. A desperate prayer for his assumptions to be wrong. It pains me I couldn't bring him that, and I can only look away.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry.
His expression doesn't fade away like I surmised. Instead, there's an effort in him to keep the atmosphere light despite the shadow of death surrounding us. Slowly, he reaches up to me and gives my shoulder a squeeze. Light as it can be, a tiny effort to raise my spirits and perhaps even his own.
Don't. This is no one's fault. Just stay here. Let me look at the situation. It couldn't have been her. Autopsy might reveal something different. Who knows?
Ash, I was in there. I saw her with my own eyes, and I'm sure it's...
Becca, like I said, I'll look at the situation. Stay here. I'll be back.
His tone leaves no room for argument. I see the moment he tucks it all away. His apprehension, the growing anxiety in his stomach. Even the part of himself he showed us so openly before. The friendly, easygoing Ash. He hides it all. Builds an even thicker wall around it. He crosses the police tape without looking back and walks into the room an entirely different person. And from my place in the doorway, I witness all of it. How he never flinches nor gags at the smell of blood. How he studies and takes everything in with a straight face. How his voice drifts from inside the room every time he asks a question, in a tone even and collected. How he checks the victim's, Isabella's, lifeless body without batting an eye, going about his work as if nothing ever happened at all. As if this isn't someone he knew personally.
Doesn't this faze you at all?
Before long, Ashton goes back to the hallway, still with the same impassive look on him. He waves someone over. Another officer? Forensics? Paramedics? After witnessing that, everything has become a daze for me. The next thing I know, someone's draping a blanket over my shoulders.
Make sure she's okay and calm enough before they start taking her statement.
I don't protest when the medics start leading me downstairs. She's speaking in hushed tones about an ambulance, though I don't understand much from it. But there's a thump. Muffled. Dull. Enough for me to miss it if I had not looked back. And the sight that greets me upon doing so is what leaves a mark in my memory before descending the stairs. There. Ashton stands with his back turned away from me, his shoulders shaking, a fist clenched firmly against the wall. Clutched tightly in his other hand is a phone. Red. Old by today's standards. Isabella's. And from its speakers rings a last message she probably never bothered to listen to, as well as a familiar voice.
Okay, listen. I personally know the guy. He might be able to help. I can easily get in touch with him if you want, so...
I thought we all agree there'd be no work calls tonight. Pay up, Ash. That pizza fund box needs some cash.
Sorry, just a sec, Becca. Hey, I gotta go. If you get this message, just let me know, okay? I'll free my sketch if you want to check with him. No fees attached. I promise. Bye.
And just like that, I have my answer. Does this faze him? No. He's worked plenty of cases before this one. He's got almost a decade of experience on that. Nothing's new in seeing and dealing with a dead body for him. But it hurts him. This hurts him more than anything. Things are less busy where the paramedics guide me downstairs. By this time, the entire flat complex has been sealed off from any outsiders, though a considerable number of people have already flocked in front of the building. Reporters, gossips, onlookers. The size of them will probably grow until the important-looking officers clear out from the area. Joy of joys. On the far side of the parking lot, a few officers interview some of the tenants, particularly the ones living closer to us. Some of them offer me pitying looks when I pass by, all of which I do my best to ignore. I don't need them. Even the sympathetic smile the medic shoots my way, I return with less enthusiasm. She is, however, kind enough to escort me to get whatever I need. The investigators will be closing off the premises while the forensics gather evidence, she informs me. And of all the things to cross my mind first,
My mail.
instead of any basic necessities someone in their right mind would think of first. Ridiculous. Now she doesn't say anything, simply nods and tells me to lead the way. For that I'm grateful. Sometimes the silence is enough, and sometimes familiar sounds are enough. And even something as simple as the creaking of an old mailbox once I pull its lid down, and the shuffling of papers against my fingers as I go through today's mail.
Bills. Brochures. A letter for Mom and Dad. I should probably call them. Let them know. And another one of Isabella's mail wound up in my mailbox. I should probably give this.
My hand tenses. Fingers lightly tracing the name. Her name. Printed in bold letters at the top left area of the envelope. This'll never reach her now. She'll never be able to read this now. A breathless chuckle. A ragged breath. A trembling hand over my mouth. Then, for the first time tonight, tears well up from deep within. She's gone. The following morning arrives, and like any other day before it, glaringly bright and clear. The fact that it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather doesn't help either. Although I appreciate catching a glimpse of an unclouded day after last week's bout of sickness, the sun is simply shining a little too much today, considering how the world has completely tilted on its axis since last night. Too warm, too cheerful, a stark reminder of her, of the kind of person she was. She was.
That'll take some getting used to.
Everything will take some getting used to. Maybe it might have helped more if her name isn't already on every imaginable local broadcast and news program. If everything around me doesn't evoke a memory or two. But that isn't how this usually works, does it? Easing into these thoughts, learning to go through a day without an entire person that always used to be there. 5 years may be fleeting, but it's enough for someone to grow on you. Enough time for them to be a significant part of anyone's life. And it's not just mine, but Ashton's and Zachary's as well. Bloody hell. A fist fight almost broke out between those two just because of this whole thing. Neither was at fault, of course. Emotions were high at the time. They seemed to still be on speaking terms when I left, but...
I wonder if those two are going to be okay.
I suppose this is all part of the coping thing. A mess happens. We are left to pick up the pieces after, and not everything is going to be pleasant. It's always about making do with what you have. And if that means getting stuck staying at an inn while the police finish off their investigation, well, there's nothing I can do about that now. Luckily, the nearby cafe's manager is also kind enough to offer me a space where I can temporarily put the sudden mess that is my life back in order. I've been sitting here for a few hours now. The manager gave me the table at the far end of the corner of the shop, and for the most part I was left alone. She might have something to do about that as well, which I'm also thankful for. Were it not for her, what slept of my morning and the rest of my afternoon might not have gone as uneventful as it did. By sunset, I've already downed a few cups of coffee, informed St. Goretti I'll be taking a leave of absence today, and finished much of the tasks I got scheduled today. Still pretty productive when everything's taken into account. All that's left for me to deal with is the mail, specifically the letter addressed from Mom and Da, and the call I have to make because of it. I've been ignoring it the whole day, putting it off for one reason or another. Worried, afraid of what they'll hear in my voice after last night. Of course, it's not like I'm not used to being caught in situations like this, or having to deliver news while feeling under the weather. This isn't the first time, after all. Over the years, this has become some sort of tradition, because their time in the academy naturally brought with it connections. People from other fields, arts, science, business, politics, you name it. Along with it are occasional invitations to parties or some gatherings. This one, though, gives off a much personal vibe. Letters like these usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents and they, in turn, treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like these are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing Ma and Da are proud of, rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here. The real one. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provide for me. They did. I wouldn't be here where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's as small a thing as letting them know they've got another mail waiting for them. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mum, her voice warm as I remember.
Becca?
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dad sprained his ankle.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that mail arrived for you. I got it last night, but things happened.
A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. Although if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it. But I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah, blah.
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though at the moment I can't really recall when or where I've heard it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't commit it to memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
Hannah.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans Mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them. The same ones that I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as a family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, it's that Mum and Dad are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, away from on some meeting or symposium, sometimes for months on end. It only grew more frequent after the years, until I'm old enough to live on my own. I'd like to think that's how I've become independent at such an early age. They've always praised me for that. At times, I wish they didn't.
Evans? Oh, I remember now. Honey, it's Hannah. Hannah Evans. Remember? Bright girl, 2 years older than Becca?
Didn't she get married a few years ago? 7 now, I think. But they grow up so fast, these kids.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonty de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
Oops.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointed note in Mum's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule. It's all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties. But I'll see what I can do. If not, I can always bring
Isabella with me, is what I'd say. What I've gotten into the habit of saying recently. Turns out I'm going to have to grow out of that sooner than expected. Hastily, I correct myself before they note anything amiss in my tone.
I can always go alone. I'm a big girl now, I can handle these things. This isn't too much of a big deal.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hannah for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her our number or something.
I will.
But you know, the 2 of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talked a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only few people I remember clearly from that time in my life are Ashton and Mandy, to some extent. Mum must have sent my confusion because she laughs.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really, it felt like having 2 daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But well, You know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
We'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then. A hearty one, tender and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago. When life and responsibility that accompanied adulthood are things far from our minds. If given the chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it though, shaking it all away, almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella could easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call, then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. Soon, I'm leaning forward on the table, cushioning my head against my arms and closing my eyes. The last sound I hear is the news. The same headline from this morning.
The authorities are still trying to find the cause of death for all the victims. Early investigation revealed most of them were employed under Briar Realty Corporation at the time of death. Meanwhile, BRC has refused to comment on this.
Before I drift off to sleep, something reeks. A heavy, festering scent, clinging to the air, wrapping itself around me like little tendrils I'm unable to shake off. Like fingers curling around my neck, twisting, winding. I can almost taste it in my mouth. At my feet, water laps against my ankles, and with each step, every ripple created, the stench only grows stronger. But I push on, pulled further by an instinctive voice in the distance.
No, I'm not at the office. Ugh, never mind. We're not safe. Not anywhere.
The clutter that greets me inside is familiar. The empty noodle cup stacked on one end, and yet to be disposed for some mundane reason. The pile of clothes to be pressed and folded. She'll get to it later, she promised. Files and papers strewn about the limited space she has, all because she needs to take care of her work home. She needs to take her work home sometimes.
You didn't see what's in her room. That's not something another human being would do. Come on, Rebecca. You have to believe me this time.
It's stronger here. The smell. More suffocating. More invading. And there, at the far corner, she sits, bent over the mess littering the top of her work desk, nose almost touching the papers on it. I call out to her. Once. Twice. My voice only brimming with anger and frustration.
You're still not going to believe me, even if someone else already died, no?
She does not respond. Something heavy lodges itself in my throat. The sound of my heartbeat thrashes against my ears. With a trembling hand, I reach for her shoulder, and gently as I can, I turn her around.
No, I'm sorry. Wake up, please. Wake up.
I wake up with a gasp, with my heart hammering hard against my chest and my lungs threatening to strain themselves from sheer force of breathing.
Stop thinking about it, Becca.
It takes a while before reality once again sets in, for me to remember where I am. Here is none of that clutter. No unkept bed she keeps forgetting to put in order. No papers littering every other surface my eyes can reach. No clothes left in a jumbled pile somewhere. No empty instant noodle cups I used to remind her to clean up every day. Only tables carefully laid out for the customers. The soundless whirl of the ceiling fans above. The murmurs of people dining in. And the strong fragrance of coffee and freshly baked pastries. A sense of sharp relief overcomes me. And a long-held breath escapes.
It'll pass. This'll pass.
Close by, I can sense the manager eyeing me with a concerned glance. Beside her, the night shift guy at the counter is doing the same thing, his eyes darting from the telly in their kitchen and me. I brush it away with a wave of my hand and start gathering my things. I'm out the door and into the busy Luxbourne night streets before they begin asking questions. Before yesterday's ghosts can catch up to me. And yet I end up back here. It's quieter now. From where I stand on the opposite side of the street, only the forensics and the scenes investigators are moving in and out of the place. There are a few onlookers, sure, but none of them dare come close unlike the last time. Some reporters are still asking the one on duty questions, jotting down notes from time to time, taking curious glances all around. But otherwise everything's peaceful in the area despite the hubbub this morning. If I squint, I can probably pretend things have gone back to normal after a day. However, until now the memories are fresh. Even the smell of blood seems to linger in the air, holding on to it, clinging to it, like a bitter reminder of what we lost in a single night. Crivens! The smell is yet to wash out of my hands. I've tried. I've burned through a whole bottle of soap at the inn, only for the scent to last no more than a few hours. Then there's the images. That single instant when I touched her shoulder, the lifeless look in her eyes when her head lopped backwards and her arms fell lifelessly to her sides. However, more than that, more than I care to confess, is the guilt. It feels more real than the scent or the memories. We fought that morning, outright shouted at each other.
Would it have changed anything if we didn't?
If I had treated her ideas, real or not, with less harshness, would anything have changed?
Would she still be here?
I guess I'll never know now. I let out another sigh. Another reprieve from what's weighing down on me. One of the many I've been allowing to slip out from my mouth lately. In a few days, they'll finally allow us back here, to return to our lives, and for those who are left behind to begin the process of mending. By then, will accepting be a little easier? I'd like to believe so. Suddenly exhausted, I begin my walk back to my temporary home, where I can pretend that this all never happened before reality kicks in again. But short of crossing the street, a voice rings out, cutting through the thick silence and stopping me in my tracks.
What? Wait, Chief, no!
Frey, listen first.
You're in on this, aren't you?
Watch your tone, Frey. This isn't up for discussion.
Closer look reveals 3 people standing near a police mobile. One of them is Ashton and LPD's Chief Inspector. The mobile blocks my view of the third person, but judging from the voice alone, it's Inspector Abigail. It appears to be some kind of regular police talk, but with the tone and how loud they're all speaking, it's close to brewing into a full-blown argument. Ashton in particular looks as if he wants to punch something. Or someone.
I was assigned here, Chief.
And might I remind you again, I can very well reassign you someplace else if you don't listen. Much less keep yourself in check.
I heard you the first time. I just don't see why there's a need for this. I'm doing my job, aren't I?
Course you don't see it. Should I give you a quick briefing? You snapped at a grand total of 5 people today. 5. Record-breaking, really, when it was at 0 before. That doesn't count the ones from the forensics company, by the way.
Ouch.
No one's asking, Abigail.
Have you taken a look at yourself since this morning? I think Officer Carl might be a little afraid of you now, in fact. First time you lashed out on him like that. Actually, that was the first time we ever heard you lash out at anyone, and I must admit that was quite a show while it lasted.
I did not lash out at Officer Carl. Or anyone. Stop exaggerating things.
Oh, do you want to bet on that? Because I'm in serious need of cash right now.
Christ, Abigail, I already told you it was just...
Or is it because of the victim? I heard you were friends with her, but this is getting a bit out of hand for a friend, don't you think?
Called it.
Is there something you're not telling us?
He liked her. He falters into silence. A pained expression falls across his face as his hands clenched into fists. It doesn't last. But in a short second, I caught a glimpse of what he's been thinking. What's been going through his mind the entire time. Just like the night before, and that last glimpse of him with his back turned against me. But to see it up close, so openly displayed in front of other people, is an entirely different thing. He's never one to let his walls down like that. Now it's falling apart piece by piece without his meaning to.
That's none of your business.
Oh, no, it is my business, all right? I'm the one running this investigation, and you know how I do everything. This one most certainly does not have a place for young detectives with a bloody temper. You better stand down, hotshot, or I'm kicking you out with or without Chief here. My crime scene, my rules.
I don't have a fucking bloody temper! Will you give it a rest already?
He says while proving that he has a fucking bloody temper.
Enough! Frey, get out of here. Take a chill pill. I don't need someone reckless running around this crime scene right now.
Chief, you can't be serious.
I am, I can, and I just did. Go on, out of this place, out of my sight.
I'm in the middle of...
Pass it to Abigail. All of it. She'll handle this for now until, I don't know, till your head's back in its proper place.
No, you can't just...
Frey, this is an order. Take a bloody chill pill. Or go get some coffee, ice cream, whatever it is you like to eat. I don't care, as long as you clear your head. Come back when you've stopped looking like you want to dismember the person next to you. Is that clear?
Chief, please, not this case.
I asked, did I make myself clear, Detective Inspector?
I mean, on the one hand, I understand why Ash wouldn't want to be removed from this case, knowing that it's someone, the latest victim is someone close to him. Of course, he's going to want to, of course, he's going to want to be the one to figure it out, because if he's not on the case, he's just left with his thoughts, and then they run amok, and then he doesn't want to be alone with his thoughts. On the other hand, he could fuck things up by being a bloody fucking hothead. Another pause. This one far heavier than the previous, and bears the weight of his complete resignation on the matter. He doesn't look them in the eye when he answers, nor does his tone carry any of his frustrations. But his wall is back.
Loud and clear.
I did not hear you.
Loud and clear, sir.
Good kid. Off you go. I don't want to see your pretty mug here in the next few hours. You're dismissed.
Yes, sir.
Except this time it's been rebuilt in the wrong place, at the wrong time, for an entirely different reason. Knowing him, when it's like this, it will not hold for long.
Don't worry about missing out on anything. I'll keep you updated once you return, all right? Take a break for now. You haven't slept since last night.
Thanks.
They leave him with a pat on the back and nothing else. But anger and frustration together are cold, ugly things that carry, much less swallow. For someone like Ashton, coping with it is a whole different uphill climb. His is not the kind that fades away with time, nor easily forgotten. It's the sort that he keeps close, allows to fester and drive him. And when that doesn't work, when all of what keeps his mind occupied is taken from him, he's nothing but lost. That anger, too, loses its direction. So he fumes, stalks off to some place where he can be alone, where he can find something to vent it out on, where people won't see more of him beyond what he chooses to show. If that doesn't work either, he'll go back to the first step, do everything again, all until everything becomes one vicious cycle and it eats him whole, changes him entirely as a person. He hates it when people meddle. He hates it more when people see him like this. But this isn't something he has to carry alone. This too is ours to bear. I won't let him suffer this alone. With that in mind, I follow after him. Minutes later, I finally track Ashton down to the nearby park. He can't sit still, pacing back and forth, running a hand through his hair as in a gesture of frustration every other pass he makes. At some point, he decides to take it out on the pole park bench, only for his foot to regret it afterwards. He returns to pacing then. Has been at it for the last 5 minutes, and at this point, he might end up digging a trench in the ground if he doesn't let up.
Someone should stop him.
When I followed him here, I've intended to put an end to this. Had a whole speech prepared for him. But now that I'm standing in close proximity to his temper, to him, I can't bring myself to even approach. My feet simply won't move the instant I saw him. Before long, my own resolve starts to wane. gradually fading away underneath the uncertainties. What will he think? Will he appreciate this? He hates it when people interfere with his affairs, and here I am barging in on his business as if it's something I'm entitled to share. When did I start thinking this way? When did I start thinking this is okay?
Why did I think this would be a good idea?
I'm stepping back before I know it, although I don't make it far. In my rush, I accidentally step on a stray wrapper that somehow missed the bin. It crunches under my foot, and in the stillness of the night at this time, it's loud enough to disturb. Ashton halts, looks up, his vexed expression making way for bewilderment.
Becca? You aren't supposed to be here.
It isn't meant to be an accusation or to be taken like one. It's a simple statement, yet it sounds far from it all the same. A question underneath. Facing it now, I hesitate. For all my bravado, for all the things I keep telling myself, I don't want to answer the unspoken question in it, nor face his anger and sorrow or what I will see beyond it. Okay, that was the right answer, I guess. Oops. We may be in the same boat, but we have our own ways of dealing with this, of living through this until we got that sense of normalcy back. But I also know I can't leave him with these ghosts. So I talk. A weak attempt to fill the awkward silence, but so long as it takes us, away from falling into that chasm, this'll do.
Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you.
Don't you usually avoid these parts at night?
I just couldn't sleep tonight, so I decided to take a walk. I didn't think I'd find you here. Considering what happened last night, I thought you'd be busy.
Not a complete lie, but when all he gives me for a response is a stare, almost close to a blank look, I think for a second he found out. Eventually he simply nods and exhales.
Bad dream?
Yeah, kind of.
I thought as much.
I frowned at him, confused at his blasé reply, until I remember. He's already seen more dead bodies in his life compared to what my eyes have seen. It comes in his line of work. Bloody hell, he has a forensic science degree under his belt at some point. At some point, he must have likely worked on a cadaver before he even got out of university. He's also been assigned to cases like this before. Witnessed close families, relatives, friends go through this. None of it is surprising to him. But what if it is what if it is of a friend, of someone he knows and has been close to for years? Won't it change everything? Anything?
Does it ever get easy?
Depends on who you're asking.
I mean, I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time you've seen something like that. Like...
I trail off, unable to continue, careful of this talk going into territory that will create bigger wounds. Ashton, on the other hand, takes a long minute to answer, like he's weighing his next words, choosing it deliberately. Then he stuffs his hands inside his pockets, and looks away at some off point beside him, looking at it intensely, as though he's seeing something there that I couldn't. His answer comes in the form of a shrug, and a voice almost too quiet, too somber.
You get used to it. Eventually.
I suppose. There isn't any other way around this, huh?
No, there isn't. Unfortunately. But you'll stop caring after the second or third time. The next thing you know, all of them just looks the same as the others in your eyes. All unfortunate victims.
Perhaps it's in his tone, or his manner of avoiding my eyes when he says that. But before I can think on it, choose my words in the same careful way he did earlier, I let my emotions get ahead of me.
Hold on. Wait. Is that what this is, then? What she is now? To you? Just a victim? Just some dead body?
He answers with more silence, and my temper, despite myself, flares.
The victim has a name, Ash, and that victim is your friend. Why is it so difficult to say her name now when you've done it plenty of times before?
Does it matter now? She's gone. Even Zach made a bigger issue out of that. There are other things you two should really be...
It does matter. To you, it does. For a long time. You've always...
You've always seen her in a different light. Far different from the way he'd look at other people. Zachary. Or me. Always with the tiny gleam in his eyes, the darting glances, the kind smiles. Little things, little gestures. To others, it may seem nothing. But to him, it means the whole world. Because it's the only way he can say everything without fumbling or losing his nerves. Right from the very start. I don't need to ask the why. I've always had an inkling. The thought has always been there, hidden, tucked away, neatly sealed away at the back of my mind, in the same manner he keeps his own secrets close to himself. Which is why, when he swallows hard, allows his arms to fall limp to his sides, and shift his gaze away, there's no jolt, no surprise in me. Just a slow, painful, burning realization of a truth long held. A feeling's never meant to be for me. And yet, in the end...
Like I said, it doesn't matter. You guys need to understand that whatever I say or do right now, this case isn't going to solve itself.
In the end, it's him who cowers from it.
You keep on saying case this, case that. But this isn't just about the bloody investigation anymore, is it?
Well, you seem to have a better idea what it is. Why don't you lay it all out to me, so I'll understand? Maybe I'm missing something. Because honestly, I don't know what else this could be, other than what we've been telling the press. A fucking homicide case. The victim was murdered, and if you bring up that stupid letter again...
Will you quit saying that?
Well, what do you want me to say then?
Stop lying to yourself!
I'm lying? Becca, look here,
No! Enough! Enough with your cool act! I'm having none of it! You listen, and you listen good! Stop this! Stop lying! Stop telling yourself everything and this is normal for you! Because it's not! It never was! It never will be!
Rebecca, I think you need to calm down.
Stop pretending Isabella no longer equates into all of this just because she's gone! Because that is a big, fat lie coming from you! She matters because it's her! She always did! No one else! Or you. She always did.
The very meaning behind it freezes him in place, and any excuses or diversions die on his tongue. There's more to it, however. Beyond his unmoving stance and his sudden unfocused stare, there's understanding and fear. He's aware I'm right, and every word I'm about to articulate are the very same ones he's been avoiding. But these need to be said, even if it means having him face the unpleasant.
Regardless of what you're telling me or Zachary, I know that out of all of us, you're the one taking this the hardest.
I allow my voice to fade. Into the night. Into the chilly air blowing in the distance between us. Cold, sharp, unforgiving. Much like the truths we have to face. Ashton is silent for some time, but the earlier shock in his face has given way to something flaccid, subdued. And when that silence becomes too unbearable for him as well, he forces himself to move. To pace. Treading the ground once again. One perturbed footsteps after another, and running a furious hand to his hair before dropping it to his side. Later, when that, too, turns inadequate, he gives the park bench another good kick. This time, if it brings any pain to him, he simply takes it all in, as if that alone will dull the other pain.
Fuck.
Regardless, he continues, but this time, there's something in his voice. A bitter note dropping to nothing more than whispers he muttered to himself. Sound he meant only for his ears to hear, but reverberates clearly in the park's stillness.
Ash, maybe you should...
Damn it. Damn it. God damn it. I was hoping. Damn it. I was hoping for her to...
His throat closes up. His words choke off, getting lost in his sorrow. Unable to continue, he passes a hand over his eyes instead, letting out a slow, ragged breath that brings him neither a sense of comfort nor relief. It's simply another reminder of what he failed to do.
I couldn't even... Damn it, all these years, telling myself that But and yet I couldn't even...
And this is where he breaks. Piece by piece. Aww. Brick by brick. The walls he has struggled to put up all came tumbling down. All of his defenses caving in, weakening as it bears the brunt of his grief. His words are halting when the first tears begin to fall. His shoulders shaking, hands clenched tightly, his fists holding on to something quickly slipping away from him. Or maybe it already did. Maybe this comes from all those missed opportunities. Her departure took it all with her, and what he's clinging to right now are merely the fragments. Remnants of all the what-ifs and should-haves.
I knew this was going to be a difficult case. The moment I saw it, I knew. There was barely any evidence. Not even a sign of someone else breaking in. And she's just there. I've been at this since last night, and I couldn't find anything that would help. I hate this. I hate feeling this stupid, this helpless. I can't even begin to imagine what she felt before she... Figures, huh? Turns out I'll mess this up too, huh?
In truth, I do not know how to answer that, or if he's even expecting any from me. It's one of those questions where there's really no exact answer to. Same with all those little regrets now surfacing, lingering. Any other day, I'd tell him exactly how I see it without wavering. That no matter how, there's no way we could have prepared for this. No way we could have known things would lead to this. But those are opinions better left for another day. When we're hurting less. When we aren't reeling from what has been haphazardly thrown at us. After all, platitudes tend to cease their usefulness at some point. And in its place, I've nothing else to offer but a shoulder to cry on. We're an awkward fit like this, with his trembling shoulders and short heaving breaths. Though he allows it, he doesn't return the gesture, nor do I expect him to do so. Unlike Isabella, who has always been open and free with her fondness for people, personal space has always been a matter of importance for the two of us. Ashton most of all. But for the time being, this'll do.
Vanport, you're an idiot. Of course I know how you're feeling about this. Who do you think I am? We grew up together, didn't we? I know you better than anyone. Stop forgetting stuff like that. Drill it into your head if you must.
We'll take what little comfort we can gain from this, beyond what reassurances mere words can offer. And in this short moment we share, this is enough. We exchange no words after. Simply standing there for a good half an hour, letting the late-night din of the city, the rustling of leaves and the hum of the crickets nearby fill the air around us. We remain like this until his sobs finally subdue, and what's left of it are nothing more than soft whimpers. When at last he pulls away from me, it is as if the heavy atmosphere has finally lifted around us, and what he carries with him no longer burdens him the way it did minutes ago. Not completely, though. Even with this, it'll take longer for everything to fade, and neither will it be easily forgotten, especially when it has taken root so deeply in our lives. But he's calm now. It's better this way, because only in the aftermath is when he'll learn to deal, to cope.
Is it going to be okay now?
It's a start. I can't always walk him through this. He knows that too. So when he answers, he asks nothing more of me and only answers in the best manner he can, without reverting back to anger or locking himself away.
Yeah, a little, I guess. I don't know. This is... It'll take some time. There's still the investigation and the evidence, if we can even find any. Plus, the lab still has to test everything.
Ash, I'm not asking about the case. Although that's important, trust me, I want to know who did this as much as you do. At least then, I'll have a proper reason to hit someone. but I'm asking about you. Are you going to be okay?
Another mirthless expression flickers shortly across his features before he looks away, his eyes focusing on some distant area of the park. There's a hint of yearning in them, probably searching for that one person who could never be there from now on. It's gone, and he's already talking in the next second before I can prompt him.
I'll be fine. A bit of adjustment here and there, maybe. I'll be okay. I've survived worse things.
I doubt he believes those, but I don't question him further on it, and neither does he let me.
But thanks for asking, and for this. Sorry you had to see me like that.
What? Don't be so embarrassed about it now. This isn't the first time, remember? Back in secondary? If I recall, someone had to snap you out of that sulk, too.
Yeah. No, don't remind me. And don't sound so proud of it.
Why not? I mean, you've done more embarrassing things in front of other people, and I always have to...
That's the point. It's embarrassing.
Oh, come on. Now you're feeling ashamed about it? For the record, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but let's just leave it there, Becca. And if you can, if possible, can you not... Don't mention this to Zach. For now. I'll never hear the end of it.
There's a lot of things he intentionally leaves out at that. So many things he refuses to tell. And it's all being hidden under that false front. His hesitance alone, the shift in his tone from that banter speaks volumes. Zachary has never been one to easily judge people. It's part of the reason why Ashton hangs out with him despite their rather disastrous first meeting. Big Eye learning about this little episode won't make any difference nor even change things around them. It's just one of the many things they learn to accept, or in some cases, tolerate about each other. Of course, it doesn't mean things like the punching incident this morning never occurs. That doesn't mean it can't easily be fixed, though. Sometimes all they need is a little push. Kids.
Zachary will understand.
Yeah, I know. I know that. But I'd rather talk to him in person first. About other things. And when we're in better terms, maybe we can laugh about this. But right now...
I won't mention anything. Don't worry. Though, like I said, Zachary will understand. You are just doing your job and that kind of news isn't easy to swallow. Anyone would have reacted that way, even if it's someone like Zach. In fact, if I didn't know the big guy, he's probably feeling guilty about it like you're doing now. Trust me, it'll be okay.
He merely smiles in reply. Strange and a bit awkward, but I take it for everything it stands for right now. Today, and then the next, a little drop of optimism could do us some good. Even if things appear a wee bit bleaker than it should be, or we're people rather rarely inclined to hope blindly. That kind of predisposition has always been Isabella's or Zach's department. Never from us, who sticks to facts and what we see in front of us. But this time, taking a page from their book isn't so bad. What is there left to lose? We don't stay too long. The evening might be pleasant and the park offers a peaceful enough place to muse on things, but we have work to do. Both of us. And though Ashton doesn't openly express it, I know he still wishes to be alone after this and mourn in his own way. The heaviest of his burdens might have already been lifted. But there are parts he continues to hold close. Bits and pieces more difficult to let go. Those are the ones I can never reach. And in spite of the fact that the mere thought of it sends my heart clenching, I can't bring myself to begrudge him over it. In this way, we are the same. Some wounds simply take longer to heal, which is why I don't stop him. And quietly, we part ways. He goes straight off to Samwell again, only leaving me a small promise to get to the bottom of this, while I head back to the city proper, where an unfamiliar room and more awful dreams probably await for me. And perhaps it's exactly the fear of being left with these thoughts on my own that leads me back to the cafe instead.
Delaying the inevitable, they say.
Less time to think about these as long as I'm awake, moving, and in the company of other people. At this hour, the cafe is usually filled to the brim with people. That's the reason Isabella and I rarely go out here during the evenings. It's simply too much of a hassle when we can prepare food ourselves in the comfort of our homes, and there really isn't much reason to eat out lately.
Irish stew. Just for one person.
Ah, the scene. He quickly raises an eyebrow at that, while I swiftly avert my gaze down to my hands, although I don't miss the consoling look he gives me. I rarely visit here alone if I can help it. Often it's always with Isabella. She can be a bad influence sometimes. But that's precisely why this guy has known us long enough. If I ever drop by here alone, he already has a number of ideas why. Doubtless, he's already heard what happened in the news. No need to bring it up in something as casual as ordering food. There's proper time and place for grief and empty sympathies. He gives me a small smile before leaving to prepare my order while I fish for my wallet when...
Look, you little ankle biter. If I buy you the biggest parfait they have, will you please behave? I would just like 10 minutes of peace and quiet.
Let me go, you uncouth lout!
Or else what?
I'll scream!
He laughs, a derisive thing that rankles on my temper more than it has any right to. It's as if he knows I can't do anything, or he's above any authority that exists in this city, confident he can get away with anything. The gall of this man. I'd like to punch him right now if I can.
Nice try, lady. Why don't you drop the book first? You could kill people with that, you know.
Fat chance!
Oh no, that attitude won't do, Daisy. Here, let's try that again, like the proper adults we both are. Drop the bloody fucking book.
And then what? If you're assuming I'm...
Then we'll have a nice conversation over a cuppa. Establish why you're attacking a poor, innocent stranger with a deadly weapon. And maybe even an apology or two for the offended party afterwards. I'm the offended party here, by the way. My brain hasn't returned to its rightful place yet, in case you're wondering.
Innocent! Don't play dumb! I heard what you were trying to do with that girl. Just because she isn't my student yet doesn't mean I don't have a role in protecting that child's innocence.
Protecting the what of who? Why would you... Oh, no.
In the span of a second, the expression on his face changes faster than anyone is capable of. From pure confusion to sudden realization before finally deciding on a face of utter mortification. He's quick to drop his hold on my hand afterwards, like he's been holding a piping hot object and has just realized it's in his hand all along. He's far from a decent person, but he might make good money doing comedy. The look on his face when he starts babbling his excuses is almost priceless.
No, this kid's... All right, lady, look, it's all a misunderstanding.
My tone can't go any flatter than the one I have now.
Right. Somebody help me!
He places a hand on my mouth before I can spill the rest of it, and all at once I'm caught between trying to stop him from smothering me, keeping his dirty hands off of me. But even as my nails dig deeper into his wrist, he doesn't appear to have any intention of letting me go. Being loud works, however. Soon the attention of practically every customer seated in the small establishment is on us. I shoot each of them an imploring look, hoping one of them will have the sense to help. The sleaze, however, is fast enough to flash them all an embarrassed smile.
Haha! This lady's having such a bad day! Poor girl's just been through so much today!
Oh, he has no idea. Also...
Nothing to see here. Go on with your dinner.
Bad day? Even if this were a friendly chat, I won't even touch you with a 10-foot pole, much less share any problems with you. Blighter, you're my problem. I want to blurt it out, but with a hand covering my mouth and my lungs rapidly losing air, I bite down on his hand. Hard. It works. Ow! He yowls, jerks his hand away from my face, stepping back to put as much distance as he can between us while nursing his injured hand against his chest and muttering a string of very creative set of expletives. Tears have formed in the corner of his eyes from the pain, and a small laughter almost leaves me. To be frank, he gives the impression of a kicked puppy with the glare he shoots me. A puppy I'm less inclined to feel sorry about.
You mad woman!
I warned you, you ass!
Why, this is harassment, I'm telling you! Harassment!
Then why don't you tell that to the police once they get here, hmm?
Yep. And now we're gonna be an asshole. Of course, an apology is the most appropriate thing to say. But no matter how much I will myself to do it, my own body refuses to budge. My own mouth refuses to open, and my head rejects the very idea of looking at him. No apology for an arsehole. Not to someone with an ego too big for his head. Let his pride suffer. I am not going to eat my words for the sake of stroking his damned ego. Less reason for him to gloat. Kylie, however, I owe an explanation.
Don't worry, Kylie. I'm not fighting with your Tio. This is just, a discussion. A very serious discussion between a very mature adult and one that's not.
Really? But I've never seen Tio angry before.
It's because he's losing the argument. But don't ever follow his example, Kylie. You should always learn to be patient, even if things aren't going your way, okay?
Oh sure, a discussion. And it involves hitting random strangers you meet at a cafe with a book. A hard-bound book. Mind you, my hand is still smarting. If I end up with rabies from this, we are going to have more than words, woman!
I don't allow Kylie to hear his tirade and cover both her ears with my hands. As fond as she is of the man, there are words he shouldn't be saying in front of a child. How can he not know about that? More importantly, how on earth did someone like him become a godfather? Who allowed it? Maybe I should talk to Mrs. Suarez about it. Warn her how he's not a good influence for her children.
Language! How can you use such crude words in front of her? Your goddaughter can hear you, for heaven's sake.
Oh, and you didn't. If I remember everything correctly, you called me a rotten bird.
So you're going to repeat it in front of her, just to make a point? What, are you 5? Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
Even Isabella. I can say that with much certainty.
Even 5-year-olds are more sensible than you.
See what I mean?
Are you fighting again?
Oh, no. Like I said, we were just having a discussion. We're actually done now, but you need to promise Miss Pink you will never grow up like this guy. Good kids don't do what he's doing.
But I like Tio.
And I'm quite sure Tio likes you too. But liking people is different. Just because you like him doesn't mean you have to be like him. There are better role models for you aside from him.
Like you?
Not exactly what I'm trying to get at. But if that's what you want, I don't see why not.
Okay, I want to be like Miss Pink someday. I want to be a teacher, and I promise I won't be like Tio, even if he's a gazillionaire.
Wow, turning my own goddaughter against me. How mature of you, Miss Pink.
His tone makes me pause. For the first time since this talk started, I look at him. Briefly, something flashes behind his eyes. Something close to what might have been an expectation falling. Dismay. I can't be sure. It passes almost as soon as it appears. What's that about? Does he actually like having Kylie around? Doesn't seem like it from the get-go. But if that fond smile on him is anything to judge by, then maybe.
Don't worry, Tio. If you buy me bread pudding tonight, I'll like you again.
Aw, if that's all it takes, consider it done, sweetheart. We might have to find another place to buy it from, though. Somewhere safe, where a random crazy woman isn't going to attack us out of the blue. Let's go.
Okay. Bye, Miss Pink. I still like you, just not more than Tio anymore. See you.
Kylie's already pulling him to the cafe's exit before I can protest on it. Although it's not like there's anything to object on further. I may view that man, Luke, as someone hateful, maybe to the point of seeing him as an eyesore, but I don't think that'll have any bearing on what the child thinks of him. When you think about it, if she admires him so much like that, then maybe there's still something agreeable in him. Part of him only Kylie sees. He still has the gall to wink at me before they both disappear behind the door, so maybe not. However, there's no moment to ponder about it. Seconds later, the guy at the counter waves me over and hands me a paper bag as soon as I paid. I agreed with her. She'd seen it once in her Isabella once told me that the best place to view it is somewhere outside the city, away from the noise and the obstructive lights. She'd seen it once in her mum's hometown and another time in the university she used to attend. Then she asked if it's possible to try it out here sometime. I agreed with her at the time, if only because she appeared excited at the mere prospect of it. We made those little plans along with Zachary and Ashton. We never got around to it before. Now we've all lost the chance. Even so, I find myself enjoying this, despite being told it's only half the experience. Little things, you know. Stuff you learn to appreciate when you're alone. Because at certain times you get to meet people who are unfortunately born with the innate talent to ruin the mood and the scene with their mere existence alone. For example, the very driver of the car fast approaching my direction. Luckily, he doesn't notice me. The fleeting moment we passed each other by gives me a brief glance of the people he's with. A brief lull the past 2 days has offered is nice while it lasts, or as nice as it can get under the shadow of Isabella's recent passing hovering over our heads. There have been no updates from Ashton either, despite his promise. When he breaks the silence, it's only to deliver a short message from LPD allowing Salem Wells tenants to return to their flats tonight. Somehow with that, it feels like the whole of Luxbourne, the whole world even, has at last chosen to move on its own again. Onwards to different, more important things that really matter to general public. Yet something still lingers.
Like an ugly premonition.
And as expected, just as things start to settle and a steady rhythm finally worms its way back to my routine, Thursday morning brings further disturbance to the now calm waters. With little ceremony, though, still enough to ripple through everything. In retrospect, I really should have seen it coming. Luxbourne's a small city, relatively. He's childish enough for that, even if what I'm about to say are just mere honest observations.
You really think that?
It's an honest question. Because no matter how much I turn it around inside my head, the gap between the man standing in front of me and the idea I have of him just won't connect. Not that the gesture will go a long way with him. Something in his demeanor tells me he's definitely not the kind of man who readily accepts such when they are given to him. Rather, he feels entitled to it from the get-go, as long as you're standing in front of him. He expects it to be there, demands it for it when he cannot see it in you. And after all those insults we've hurled at each other, I don't think it'll matter much to him if I point out the ugly truths and brandish it into his face. As expected, it doesn't throw him off in the least. He merely raises a questioning brow at me.
About what?
About what you told Kylie. And don't you think she's a bit too young for that kind of talk?
Kylie's 6, Daisy, not an infant who still needs help changing her nappy. At her age, she can already handle more than that. Besides, it's better to nip this whole thing at the bud. You know, before she starts thinking that a man's ego defines her self-worth. I certainly don't need someone else to define me. Why should any godchild of mine do? So, do I really think that? Yes. Yes, very much so. Why shouldn't I?
All right, I get it. I'm sorry. You just didn't seem the type to me.
I've intended to end the conversation right there and simply go my way. I no longer have any business here, and our deputy principal's stories sounds more enticing the longer I stand here. With the manner Luke's almost ranting, I have a feeling this won't end if I say more. Though thinking about it, I should have left the second he'd taken the box from me. Naturally, he doesn't get the hint.
The type. And what, pray tell, would my type be according to your standards, woman?
The sort I'd happily bury alive.
Well, would you look at what's coming out of those pretty little lips? Watch the language, Daisy. You're supposed to be teaching children. What would ever happen to this nation?
You know what I mean.
Oh, and you somehow find that tidbit funny.
A little, I admit. That sort of wisdom is the last thing I expected to come from you. I mean, look at yourself. Pampered and pompous to the last hair. You've probably never been to this side of Luxborn until a few days ago.
Daisy, just because I'm dressed miles better than the average bloke you see every day, doesn't mean I'm incapable of thinking on your level. Actually, I'm more surprised we aren't on the same page on this. I expected better from someone with enough balls to hit a random stranger with a bloody book. In public, mind you. Someone my goddaughter looks up to, even. Guess you can't have everything in this world,
Well, of course, I'm...
Oh, I get it. Running on presupposed notions, aren't we? My, what a dangerous thing to practice for a teacher.
It doesn't have anything to do with...
What is it this time, I wonder? Oh, wait, don't say it, let me guess. What do those random gossips in this bloody city usually say? Oh, right. You probably think I'd go with clingy, spoiled kind, didn't you?
What? Where does that... how did you even come to that conclusion?
Oh, don't lie to me now, Daisy. But just so we're clear, if I wanted an arm decor, I'd have gone with the first brainless munter I picked up on the streets. I have standards, you know.
I haven't even said a word. I was just asking what you thought of it.
Oh, but you were thinking about it or else you wouldn't have asked. Might as well get it out of the way,
You are impossible.
So they say. Tell me something I didn't know, Daisy.
I really have no idea how anyone with half a brain can put up with you. Let me speak with your wife sometime. I'd love to ask her.
That last remark just came out. There might be a sliver of truth in it, but I shouldn't have phrased it like that. Even for my own standards or the kind of person I'm talking to, it's still quite rude. An apology's already at my throat, but the minute I open my mouth, all of what I prepared myself to say dissipates, lost in the moment in front of me. He has turned, gazed outside, staring at some point past the buildings blocking the view of the sky, equally lost in his thoughts. He's a vexing man under so many standards. However, in this moment, the morning light streaming from the window lends his features a certain air. Softer, less severe than when he often flaunts. I might as well be looking at a different man. There's a tender note in his voice when he finds it. The words muttered under his breath, not intended for anyone but himself. Nevertheless, it reaches my ears, unintentional as it may be.
You're right. She deserves someone far better than me.
All that talk about self-worth makes some sense now. It isn't some profound knowledge he pulls out of his arse. It has come about because he's already been there, likely still stuck in the middle of it. Preaching about your own personal experience is easier after all. The world is more universal than people care to think. But looking at it from where I'm standing now, after staring right into the eyes of that woman, after all the things I've been hearing and feeling lately, perhaps there's really more to that bloody letter than some awful Halloween prank. Perhaps I shouldn't have listened to Ash and followed my suspicions.
Perhaps Isabella's right all along.
Terrible thing if true. Though that thought doesn't linger long, thankfully. Soon the ringing of my mobile takes my attention from it. An unfamiliar name flashes before me once the screen lights up and my brow knits together. Marianne McCullough. Staring hard at the screen, I try to remember when I've entered this person in my contacts list. It takes a moment, but when it clicks, my eyes zero in on the book lying wide open on my table. Loaned out from the library almost a week ago. I met the woman there by sheer coincidence. A fellow history buff, apparently. We were both after the same book, but in the end, she'd given it to me under the condition that I call her once I'm done. To be honest, I've completely forgotten about it until now, and, well, haven't really taken a peek at it until today. Normally, I'd be done with the whole volume of this size a few days after taking it out. About 1 or 2, depending on how busy I am. But finding a chance to sit down and read through it has been more difficult lately than I anticipated. One moment I'm busy simply grading worksheets, attending a movie premiere. The next, then someone suddenly inviting me out for one reason or another. Days later, a friend ends up murdered, and looking down at her lifeless body. There simply isn't enough time to breathe and get a grip on things. From the way it's phrased, it sounds to be the latter. Either way, I'm glad he's at least aware of that boundary. Not that Isabella is ever going to let him leave the building unscathed if he ever pulls the same stunt he does with the other man. I cringe to imagine what she'd do to him. Except she's no longer there, if that scenario ever comes to pass. Sighing, I slip the gadget back into my pocket. But looking up to see Luke's rather utter impatience on his face, I now face a different dilemma. The two of them are still waiting, and knowing the kind of person Luke is, this is already a grand gesture of goodwill coming from him. All to please his godchild. His denials aside, it's easy to tell he's really fond of Kylie from his actions alone. I kinda hate to ruin that.
Well, Daisy, we're waiting here.
On the other hand, there's Ash. His message doesn't exactly imply he's going to wait, or he's expecting me to be there. But there are matters I hope to discuss with him in person, to put it simply. Housewarming party matters. With inviting Isabella out of the question, I only have Zachary and Ashton. Although the former has already made it clear he'll be busy this week, and, well, Ashton has been my first choice from the start. Even if he detests attending gatherings like this. It's company that counts. We can be miserable together. But that's the problem, isn't it? He hates them. And it's very likely his answer will be a flat no. I'd rather not hear that. If by some miracle he agrees to it, he'll probably be sulking the whole party. Not really a tough choice when you put it like that. Still. Tough choice, but I have to pick one. Though when you look at it closely, it isn't such a difficult decision to make. All the way down. First and foremost, no matter where I look at this, it is inappropriate to some degree. Disregarding Luke's honest intentions, I've only known the man for a grand total of 2 days, including today. If I'm going to be thoroughly specific, I'll give it a grand total of around 10 hours. By all means, that's not enough reason for me to join them for dinner, even if he says Kylie's the one who requested it. To other people, it won't appear as innocent as he makes it out to be, and if there's one ugly thing about the city, it's this place's penchant for inane gossip. One little spark, it'll spread like wildfire. Who knows how far it'll go, how many ears it'll reach. What if Ashton hears about it? I'd rather not think about the consequences to that. I've got enough on my plate lately as it is. Being at the center of the rumor mill along with this man in whatever form it takes sends unpleasant chills down my spine. My answer must have already shown on my face as Kylie's smile immediately dissolves into a pout.
You're not gonna join us, are you?
I'm sorry, Kylie. I'd love to, but I have other things to do. Another time, maybe? A friend just texted me about something urgent, and he wants to meet tonight.
Just say it's a date, Daisy. The little rugrat will understand. She's not an infant. No need for blatant lies.
Heat instantly crawls up my face at his baseless insinuations. Oh, what I would give for another chance to put a real dent on his skull.
What even gave you that idea? And even if it is, why do you care? Stop sticking your nose in other people's affairs.
Oh, your face says it all, woman. You think I won't recognize those longing looks?
There isn't a look, you There isn't a look, all right?
Sure, whatever helps you sleep at night, Daisy.
You already have a story written inside that head of yours, don't you?
Oh, please. It's not that interesting. The color of your face does suit you, though. Matches the hair. Well, come on now, Munchkin. I'll just buy you an extra glass of that parfait.
With extra strawberries?
I'll get you a basket full if you want. As long as you behave. And no complaints if they don't have enough syrup again. Deal?
Deal. Have fun with your date, Miss Pink.
Luke's already leading the child away before I can correct her. On reaching the end of the hall, however, he doesn't miss the chance to shoot me another one of those infuriating winks. Does he really think women enjoy those? I'd sue him for harassment if I can. Though I must admit, the two of them walking together hand in hand is an endearing sight in itself. It's something to mull over, along with every other confusing and frustrating thing about this guy. Some of the time, though. Ashton's waiting. His car's headlights had been turned on, illuminating the otherwise empty parking lot. If it's like that, this is probably going to be a quick visit. Although our landlady would probably have a few hundred words to say about this before letting it go. Not many in this complex own a vehicle, anyway, to warrant the space's frequent use, owing to the area's proximity to downtown Luxbourne. No one's going to be disturbed if one car stays parked with its lights on for a few minutes. Right now, though, it serves as a pleasant company while I idle inside my own car, thumbing the invitation's fine print, flipping it over and over until the motions become familiar enough. What should I say? How should I say it? There's a very high chance he'll say no, but on the off chance he accepts, what should I do? Fears, doubts, questions I haven't asked before, and more often than not, the anxiety is because of him. 17 years ago, I've been in the same position, a different letter in hand. Somehow nothing has changed. Perhaps if you'd noticed how I've always felt about him years ago, I wouldn't be in this predicament. Honestly, he manages to ace all those exams at school without even lifting a finger, and he couldn't figure this out.
How dense can he get?
But I can't very well wait for another 2 decades just for something as measly as an invitation, can I? It's not like it's going to be a date. Although, frankly, I wouldn't mind if it is. However, that's a wish best reserved for some other time. I won't get anywhere if I just keep thinking about the what-ifs. Gathering all my thoughts and courage, I step out in my car and gingerly make my way upstairs, invitation in hand. Ever since the incident 3 days ago, there's a strange air permeating the atmosphere here. Weighted, but the sort that slowly trickles through you, until the burden of it finally bogs you down with some kind of disquiet. The days since have been uneasy, and Isabella's absence from her flat does not help settle it. Every day coming home somewhat feels like an uphill battle in itself, leaving you spent when you're supposed to be getting some rest. Is Zachary experiencing the same thing? I certainly am. The same weary slump is also on Ashton's shoulders once I catch a glimpse of him. He's leaning casually on the rails, his back against its metal surface, while reading through a bunch of papers. Each one appears more important than the other, despite me having never read a letter of it. He'll probably head back to the precinct after this, if he's not going to drop by Zachary's for a bit of shut-eye. No rest for the wicked. But no matter how occupied he seems, he pauses anyway and looks up from his work the moment he hears my treads. He raises a hand in greeting as a small smile spreads across his lips. Exhausted as I am, I can't help but return it to him.
What brought you here?
He hums something inaudible, neither an answer nor even a vague hint, before he turns his attention back to the papers. For a passing second, I think he'd ignore or evade the question, like every single time I've asked. But then he shovels the documents back to a binder and sets it aside with a huff. It sounds more fatigued than I ever heard from him recently. Either there's simply too many things keeping him busy at once, or his investigation isn't going too well. Maybe even both.
Just work.
Just work? Do you expect me to believe that?
In a way. I didn't think an important contact ditched me and now I'm stuck would make for a cool alibi. Did it work?
As if there's going to be any difference. You're still a dafty. Anyway, do you want to come in? But if you're going to hang around for a bit, you better turn those headlights off. My landlady's one hairline away from banning you off this place, you know? Stop taking the piss out of her. She's a nice woman.
When she stops taking the piss out of Shirley, maybe I will.
You and your bloody car.
The first time I've heard of the name, I did a double take. From the way he put it, it was as if he was talking about some woman he met somewhere, surprisingly got along with and grown fond of. Never mind how impossible that is, knowing his lack of interest for people outside of our small circle. Honestly, it sent a surge of panic in me. It lasted for days, until he proudly introduced me to his new car. His car!
Hey, it's a nice name. Don't laugh at it. You'll hurt her feelings. I'm gonna have to give that offer a pass, though.
Nothing unexpected, but admittedly I'm hoping he'll stay for a few minutes. Suddenly asking him to accompany me to some housewarming party is starting to turn into a bad idea. If you can't be bothered to spare a second of his time to his friends, what more if he has to stand some hours in a room full of strangers?
I need to get going. I just dropped in to check on something and...
His words trail off, cut mid-sentence on purpose, leaving it for me to comprehend the rest of it. At the same time, his eyes shift momentarily towards the door closest to us, Isabella's unit. Eerily quiet now in her absence. The instant his lips curve into a small frown and his shoulders tense, I know work is far from his reasons for being here. Being all too aware of that idea alone summons another dull ache straight to my chest. Like every time, every single moment, he affords her the attention he can never seem to spare others. While it is a worry better left for a different situation, it twinges the heart nevertheless.
Is it the case? Were you able to smooth things out with the chief and Inspector Abigail?
Yeah, they let me back in. A few hours after another sermon, though. But it's not that.
He stalls, several seconds too long for comfort. Minutes later, he takes a step back, stuffs both hands into his pockets before looking away. It's like he doesn't want to be here. His posture on its own screams his complete reluctance to be the one delivering whatever this is. Is there anything worse than the one we got last time? Or the one I saw? Somehow part of me no longer wants to hear him out, as this will only be another unpleasant news.
Actually, it's... LPD's been in contact with the embassy.
Oh, yeah.
And her family back home.
Oh, how did they take it?
As one would expect. Her mom was in shock, of course. The eldest guy I talked to, the one she complains about a lot, I kinda see why. He threatened to kill me if he found out I'm lying. Swore he'd take the first flight here. As if you could lie about something like that.
And her dad? Does he know?
No, I think they're putting it off until he's well enough to take the news. They're already making arrangements with the embassy now. Her aunt's helping out as much as she can, but there's only so much she can do.
You should have said a word. Is there something we could help with then?
That's why I'm here, actually. They called this afternoon. Asked if we could pack some of her things tomorrow. For shipment. Back home.
Silence descends between us like as the gravity of his words sink in. A gut punch, if anything. Suddenly it's all moving too fast. We haven't even come to terms with it, and yet the world is already asking for more.
Tomorrow? Isn't that a little...
abrupt? Hasty? The right words won't take form. What right do we have to protest in the first place? Do we even get to say in this? We're just her friends. People she met because she happened to end up here. We have no right to hold on to her when her family, people of her own blood, are waiting. For her, they will always come first. But where does that leave us then?
And what about the case? Don't they want to know who did that to her? Are they just going to leave it like this?
I sure hope not. We can't just drop it. I can't let them. The bastard's still out there.
Then talk to them. You're part of the team investigating this, right? You should be able to reason with them, or Ashton, you have to try. You can't allow this to...
A genuine plea, yet under the weight of his gaze and every uncertainty behind them, the rest of it falls weakly off my lips. Unspoken, fragile, amidst the silence suddenly stretching out between us. In the middle of it, Ashton stands perfectly still for a handful of minutes. Whatever he thinks beyond the ones he allowed me to hear, he keeps hidden. Still unwilling, unready to let go of. When at last he finally decides to break the hush, he merely casts a glance back to the empty room behind us. Gone is that somber mood when he shifts his casual, friendly airs back.
I'll see what I can do. I'll let you know. For tomorrow, I'll try to bring Zach for some extra help. See you, Becca. Good night.
Ashton squeezes my shoulder, light as he can, before stepping away and heading straight for the stairs. His way of offering comfort in the middle of this little mess we found ourselves in. But amidst all of this, a tiny voice in the back of my mind nudges a memory. Something I've forgotten and the very reason I've chosen to return home tonight. He's made it 4 steps down when realization kicks in and awareness of the envelope I've been holding returns to me. Panic rears before proper words can form, or I can think about the situation. Not a second sooner I'm calling after him.
Ashton, wait!
He halts, one foot already down another step when he turns to me, raised eyebrow in question.
Yeah?
And of all times, it is in this moment when I falter. The adrenaline from earliest panic suddenly recedes. All of a sudden, none of the things I prepared to say will take form, and I'm caught between simply forgetting about this or just blurting it out to him while hoping for the best. Should I even? There's nothing wrong with trying, I suppose. I'm not going to lose anything if he says no, which frankly has a very high chance of happening than the opposite. Though the thought still doesn't prevent heat from crawling up my face and setting my heart racing. It's better to get this over with before my throat closes up and I lose my nerve.
Tomorrow afternoon. Do you have time?
Small frown is already on his face. I already see where this is going and what he's thinking from that alone. Yet for some mulish reason, I continue hanging on to that tiny glimmer of hope he'll say yes if I present an argument good enough for him.
That depends. Why?
Well, you see, someone sent an invite for a housewarming party, and I thought you might want to...
Rebecca, I'd rather stand on the messy end of a gunshot. You know that.
Ouch.
I know, it's just... You're one of the few people I can count on with things like this.
That's cool. I appreciate the thought. But really, Zach's a better companion. Gatherings like that just aren't my cup of tea.
It did cross my mind, you know. If he isn't busy with his freelance work, I'd probably ask him too. Actually, you two would have been spared if Isabella was here, but...
Why not just skip out on it? The world's not going to end if one guest doesn't show up.
Trust me, I'd love to. But I promised Mom I'll be there.
Still can't say no, huh?
Like you're any better. Besides, the person who sent this is an old friend of Mom and Dad. If it's important to them, why not? Though, who would have thought, huh? The famous Evans heir used to be tutored by my parents. Apparently, we also met before.
Wait, who?
Evans. Hannah Evans. Well, she's already married. She goes by Hannah Wright now. Remember the couple who bought the mansion Isabella's selling?
The same people?
As far as I know. Unless I misread their address, or there's another Hannah Wright in this city that we don't know about.
Let me see that.
Without waiting, he walks closer and takes the invitation out of my hands. Gently, but with the same force of urgency in his tone. I don't know what he finds in it, but his eyebrows draw together as his eyes scan through the little lines of text printed on the small piece of paper. His hold on the envelope tightens with each pass, and by the time he has finished reading, his mouth has formed into a thin line.
You never mentioned this.
We met just once. Or at least, that's what Mum told me. Honestly, I can't recall anything from it. Otherwise, I would have told you about it.
He hums something inaudible under his breath, all while thumbing the paper, staring at it as if doing so would proffer him answers to every unspoken question in his head. When he gleans nothing from it, he merely folds the envelope back into its form.
All right. I'll go with you.
What?
I'll go with you. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Unless you've already made up your mind about asking Z-Man.
No, I told you already the guy's busy. Why would I bother him for this when I can go alone? But what about your own work and...
I can make time for this. 3 o'clock, yeah? I'll pick you up an hour or so before.
My head reels. Less from what this implies, more from how easy all of this seems for him. How fast this turnaround is. He's already halfway down the stairs when any semblance of sense returns to me, and I can finally string 2 words to protest together. Yet all of it dies on my tongue at the small smile he shoots me. He disappears from view seconds later, his footsteps gradually fading as he descends the stairwell, until all I can hear are my own shallow breaths and heartbeats, loud, pounding hard against my chest. It is only after I'm standing alone in my room minutes later that it sinks in. He has taken the invitation with him, but besides that, more than that, he's also accepted mine. Calling this happiness is a complete understatement. For now, looming thoughts of the mansion and that woman lay silent at the back of my head. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swirling inside my head. come morning, there's only a hush, a strained sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there. It hangs in the hallway. It lingers in Isabella's room, palpable the moment I ease open the door and walk in. The scent of disinfectant greets me upon crossing the threshold. The windows have been left wide open, but it doesn't do much to keep the sterile smell out. The walls and floors have also been scrubbed clean of blood after the police are done with it. Yet, even with all the efforts they've taken, the stench of death endures. But more than that is the sight of what has been left behind. Posters hanging on the walls, framed photos she keeps on her bedstand, the stuffed toys she brought on a whim before the mess of cushions on one area of the room that she promised to clean. She'd never be able to do that now. Even without her here, the room is still so undoubtedly hers. Ashton and Zachary are already here, each of them having found a corner of the room to start their work. Scattered around them are a couple of boxes. 6, 7. Most are all still empty, merely waiting to be filled. It's a wonder it'll be enough to fit all 5 years' worth of memories here. Knowing Isabella, she won't be willing to leave any of these behind. There's no lively chatter, no friendly banter here to greet me, only a thick silence hanging between the three of us. And despite my resolve, I still end up hanging around the door, unsure. From the looks of it, the two of them alone can already handle this, but still, I wanted to help. Even if doing this has a ring of finality in it. Well, I mean, Ashton does not look up from his work when I approach. He is, however, considerate enough to make room for me in what little space he's made for himself amidst the room's mess. In the little time he's been here, he has made much progress cleaning up the corner of the room he's picked. 2 boxes have already been filled, taped, and set aside. Now he's already working through the photos taped on Isabella's fridge, carefully pulling them all in a neat stack beside him. With nothing else to say, not even a clipped greeting, we both simply lapse into silence, working diligently through the clutter of papers and books around us, sorting everything into boxes. This pile will immediately be sent to her family. It's important. A collection of postcards goes in this other box for shipment at a later date. Her youngest siblings will love it. Only a few soft grunts and hums are exchanged between us, until the minutes blur and we found a rhythm. One that's only broken when Ashton chuckles. An odd thing to hear in the heavy silence of the room, and it prompts me to look up from my own work, puzzled. He's staring at one of the remaining photos still fixed on the fridge's door. Moments later, after a bit of amusement has died down, he reaches for it. Ha ha ha! And I love that she put... That's funny. It's an old photo of the 4 of us, taken a few years ago. About 2 or 3 years, probably? I can't remember. Isabella's always been the one to remember these sort of things. Although at the moment this picture isn't the most flattering thing to look at, after she threw all over Ashton's face. None of it seems to bother him, though. In fact, with the manner he's staring at it, it's as if he's holding the most precious thing in his hands right now. A tender smile is on his lips, and for the first time in days, his eyes are bright with something close to fondness.
Really, scaredy cat? A mustache? I expect more from you than that.
She was such a child sometimes.
Worse. She's clumsy, a scatterbrain, and a crybaby. In the 5 years we've known her, she got us into all kinds of trouble. More than I can count. Honestly, she barged into our lives with all the subtlety of a bulldozer. The way she came in leaves a terrible impression when you think about it. Who does that?
Sounds like a complaint on all fronts. There's not even a hint of humor in it. Wherever I look at it, I'm inclined to think he really means all of it. But this is Ashton. Sometimes, despite what he says, his words carry a completely different meaning beyond what he chooses to convey. It's all a matter of looking beyond it, past his unnecessary criticism and blunt declarations.
I can hear a but in there.
Might as well. At my words, he stiffens like a child who's been caught in the middle of his lie. But the unspoken question in it has struck true. Little by little, his posture eases. A gentle expression spreads over his features as the sun moves over her face in the picture. All a memory now. Though even before he answers, even without his eyes trained on me, I already know.
But it's people like her that you don't forget.
It's the little things they say. The smallest sighs, the quiet proclamations, the hushed gestures that roar louder than any. It's in the way he looks at her, smiles at her, and speaks of her. In the manner of the sharp edges of his features softens at the mere thought of her. Grief underlies all of it. The yearning. But in that one fleeting second, this is the one truth he will hold against the world. He loves all of her. Despite the hollow ache in my heart, only a hum of agreement makes its way to my throat. An acceptance. This will always be a part of him. She will always be a part of him, in the same way her presence has wormed its way into Zachary's life and mine. If he never wishes to part with this, I won't blame him. That entitlement goes for all of us.
Do you think she'd be okay with it if I keep this one?
Out of everything, you want a photo where she doodled on your face?
Oh yeah, of course. That's literally Isabella.
What's wrong with it? I think it looks very tasteful. 11 out of 10. I'd even put it on Shirley's dashboard.
Belle would say your taste sucks.
She'd say more than that. She'd probably call me an asshole while she's at it.
Yep.
You know she didn't mean that.
For a long moment he's quiet, as if he's weighing his next words. Outside, a soft breeze rustles the few trees within the vicinity, and the gentle tweets of the birds have begun to blend in with the distant noises of the city. The world's waking. Along with it, Ashton releases a sigh, softly under his breath, but weighted with all that he's hanging on to.
No, she never did.
Then, gently, he sets the photo on a nearby table, separate from the stack beside him. A light draft blows from the open window, sending some of the papers around us aflutter. With the lone photograph on the table, that one remains. Another memory to keep. However, today isn't the time for those. No further words are exchanged after that, and perhaps it is for the better. We managed to pack most of Isabella's belongings by the time all of us have to leave for work. But at the threshold, we all hesitate. A heavy air hangs around us, a consequence of knowing that this might be the last time we will be doing something for her. Of course, none of us mentions it, even if the meaning's all too clear in our heads. This is a goodbye, if anything. The world outside waits, and we can't stay here. So with a last glance, we leave all of it behind. At least tonight, I'll have something to look forward to. Something to help take my mind off things. And if any of my hunches are correct, where this all started will provide the answers I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden whatever Isabella claimed dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars worth more than their own apartment and my own apartment and childhood home combined line the massive front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to arrive, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright, from the confident manner she holds herself amongst present company. This despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests and not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxbourne.
Welcome everyone!
And Mum said we could have been good friends. Can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guests she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity not mind, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my tastes. They flit briefly in my mind, until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of enraptured audiences again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. Also, knowing there might be some truth to what lies inside this place helps drive the unease further by a notch. Ashton, on the other hand.
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
Someone who abhors gatherings like this, he already seems right at home, standing with an air too lackadaisical as he watches the valet drive off with this bloody car.
Can't you at least act with a bit more shame?
Becca, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, there will be hell to pay.
Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley.
My disdain has likely shown beyond the tone of my voice, quite possibly in the form of a grimace. He chuckles. A rare moment of mirth and amusement dance across his features. Try as I might to pull up a stern glare, I can't help but join him instead. There's something in the lightness of it, in how easy this kind of interaction falls into place when we don't let feelings get too involved, in spite of being stuck in a situation we're not fond of. Brings back memories. However, the moment doesn't hold. All of a sudden, Ashton grows quiet.
Chief?
An odd expression flashes momentarily across his face. There he blinks it away before I can figure out exactly what it is.
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca, I just saw someone I need to catch up with. Longtime friend.
Doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused at some point in the crowd. His gaze darting between people walking past us until a small frown forms on his face.
Oh wait, Ash! What about...
This won't be long. Be careful while I'm gone, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already, he has turned his back from me and is walking away, without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure and his odd warning at the end. I mean, the fact he called Chief and then went, gotta go. I mean, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it looks like a duck, it's probably not a giraffe.
Hey, be careful! About what
Only for my attempt to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my phone. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer. But then the call ends and I get to look up. Ashton's already heading inside. With a sigh, and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and follow after him.
So much for a date.
Even with familiar company, this is somehow shaping up to be a terrible evening. He's been 1 minute he's hanging around a small group, in another he's hovering around the string band. Just a second ago, he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. Next thing I know, he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he only agreed to come with me for another reason. That is absolutely correct. You are totally an excuse, Becca, sorry.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
Now, not that Ashton was ever reacted to. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My co-workers, more often than not, assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. But his reason is clear to me now. Still, the heat of a blush creeps up my cheeks, a denial ready, despite wanting it to so it to happen so badly myself.
What? No, that's ridiculous.
I believe I still have the clothes she gave me. Chosen, all so I can impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen. He's a detective, for heaven's sake, but feelings, more often than not, escape him. He's not entirely clueless about it, I know. He won't be harboring affections for someone else if he is. Only those that aren't of his own escapes him.
What was it again?
She says that before a short moment a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even sorted these things out for myself.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Though to be frank, I doubt she'd be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention. Hypocrisy, that's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing? No wonder I've lost him to someone else, long before my own feelings are known. And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another, because I'm the one who has stayed by his side the longest. Commotion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, the security shows up, escorting her out. Apparently she's the chief inspector's wife, too. As if this whole thing can't get any more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this'll bring, I'm more worried about Hannah. Maybe Luke, too, in part. I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him, no matter how questionable that is now. Though sometimes mere affections aren't enough.
And I've had enough of you! So guess what? Fuck you, Luke!
We agreed to never talk of this woman!
Did we? I don't remember.
I don't know how long this has been going on. I don't know either of them well to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some kind of connection with both of them.
Face it, Lucille Mitchell Wright. You owe me everything.
I owe you everything. I owe you everything? Who's running the business now while you sit at home like a pretty princess?
If I recall, you told me to retire so that I can enjoy my time as Mrs. Luke Wright.
I wouldn't even bother with other women if you were still Hannah Evans. You used to be your own woman. You used to be someone who I could fucking look up to. Now look at you. If I wanted some brainless bint, I'd go to the whorehouse and play any old strumpet like a fucking fiddle. That's all you are now. A brainless, good-for-nothing.
But the second Hannah raises her hand, I know it's far too late to save an already crumbling relationship. Long before her palm connects with his cheek. The sound of it echoes throughout the whole ballroom, loud enough to silence everyone. The quiet does not persist, however, and in an instant Luke orders every guest out.
That's it! This party is over! Everybody leave before I have you all thrown out!
There's shuffling, a minute of reluctance from every head in the room. But in the end, his anger forces everyone to comply. Chatter explodes throughout the whole foyer once the door has been properly shut. Worried murmurs, clicking of tongues, and inappropriate gossip glitters through the thick tension in the room. I couldn't care less about any of it. Besides, it's pretty obvious what the topic is. Most of them haven't even left the premises and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow it'll be on the news for sure, in every local broadsheet and tabloid in Luxembourg. Oops. Simply thinking about it already gives me a headache. When the shock is faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I've come here for, and Ashton's nowhere to be found. I'm not sure what pisses me off more. That he ignored me for the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive of being here. Can't he at least trust his own friends for that?
He didn't have to lie to me.
The only relief to be had in this, perhaps, is Zachary's comforting smile when he approaches. He appears as disturbed as when he stands beside me, fiddling with the buttons on his camera, even though the device is off.
Eventful night, huh?
You can say that again. It was awful.
He pauses for a moment, stares at me intently. And then he laughs. A tired one, but filled with humor, in spite of what we've witnessed.
Let me guess. Ashton.
Oh, what makes you think he's my problem?
Just a hunch. And, it's all in your face, actually.
Why does he have to? I don't understand that man anymore.
Like I always say, you should just...
Oh, you can bet your ass we're going to have a very long talk. I'm not letting him off easy this time.
I'm sure he has a good reason. He won't say it, but he likes being around us. Heck, we're probably the only people he likes. He ain't gonna ruin that for something stupid. He can be dense, but he ain't dumb.
That's exactly what I've been telling people, isn't it?
We'll see about that. Let's just go. Are you done here?
Yeah, no use staying when...
Just then, the door to the ballroom slams open and a very irate Luke marches out into the foyer. By now, most of the guests have trickled out of the mansion, leaving only a few loitering around the room. With his fury still at its peak boiling point, it's only natural he'll zero in on the tallest person within Temper's blast range. Although he's not really making an effort not to let the remaining people in the hall hear his tirade.
Well, well, still here I see. Having a grand time, aren't we? Every bloody goss in this fucking city has something to talk about tomorrow. Great news day, isn't it? I wonder what the headlines will be. Cheating husband lashes out at poor wife.
I ain't a part of the media, sir. Miss Wright only hired me for the photos, nothing more.
Oh, the photos, of fucking course, how could I forget? Darling wifey needs a bloody souvenir, doesn't she? Something to remind her of how she humiliated her asshole of a husband.
I'm sure it ain't like that, sir. Hannah's... No one expected...
Hand it over.
I'm sorry, what?
Are you also deaf? Do I always have to spell everything out to you peasants? Hand the blasted thing over! All of you! If I see one picture, even a single shot of a fucking spoon tomorrow, you will all lose more than your jobs. Now give me the bloody camera.
I can't do that, sir. I do freelance work, and this is my...
Do I look like I give a shite? Give it to me, or...
I wonder what Kylie will say if she sees Tio Luke right now.
Nice. For a short second, he looked surprised to find me there. To be honest, I didn't realize I'd spoken either until he turns a livid glare on me. A lesser person would probably cower under it. I will too, perhaps, in another situation where he isn't throwing insults at my friend. That one I simply cannot let go of.
Oh, Daisy, oh, Daisy. Do you always have to butt in on other people's discussions?
I wouldn't have to if there was actually one happening right now. It's pretty one-sided, eh? A bit offensive, too, if you ask me.
Woman, why don't you just bugger off? No one cares what your opinion is, especially in my home.
You don't have to worry about that, Mr. Luke Wright. I don't have any plans of staying longer. I'm only here to fetch my friend. I wasn't expecting to see an asshole standing beside him, though.
Rebecca, you really don't have to.
Oh, no, you shut your trap. Let her say what she wants. I'd love to hear it.
Oh, you would, wouldn't you?
That feisty attitude is going to take you places, Daisy. Fair warning, though, woman, and I've said this plenty of times.
There's a pause as he steps closer, staring me down with almost little to no effort. I do my best to hold it, but I won't deny flinching at the tone he takes once he lets loose the next words from his mouth.
Threats do not work on me.
And then and there, I believe him. That this man is capable of doing so much more than what any intimidating remark I can lob at him.
So if you don't have anything worth my while to say, it'd be in your best interests if you remove you and your precious friend from my property. Now, before I get the security to drag you out.
Another person takes that decision out of my hands.
Come on, Becca. He ain't worth your time.
Without wasting time, Zachary pulls me away from him. By the time I've regained my senses, he's already tugging me by the wrist towards the wide-open doors. The stubborn part of me, however, the part who has seen the kind of person he is when he's with Kylie, refuses to withdraw without flinging one last retort.
And here I thought you were a halfway decent guy. Whatever happened to the person his goddaughter looks up to?
He was never there, Daisy. That man died a long time ago. You're better off not looking for him.
This is the moment he decided to kill Hannah. I won't. I have no intention to, but I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave. If only to have one last look at the man he really is. Perhaps I should be thankful this brief acquaintance isn't going anywhere. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Like the first time I've stepped into this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? This man, along with his wife and another person, Miss Makola? And that shadow. No. A woman now. Her. No longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body. A crippling sensation gripping every part of me, while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I'm unknowingly robbed of something precious. I tried to say something. A warning. But Zachary's already leading me out of the foyer, oblivious. And before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind us, as if to keep outsiders away from the secrets this mansion possesses. A rush of fresh air against my cheek does little to dampen the chill in my bones. By now the sensation, the fear and disquiet it leaves whenever I see her is familiar enough for me. Already it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hand until Zachary points it out to me.
Rebecca? You okay? You ain't looking too good. You're shaking.
Hastily, I retract my hand from his hold, crossing my arms across my chest instead, in some lame attempt to keep the smallest of movements down. The cold from the tips of my fingers seep through the thick material of my shirt regardless. Nevertheless, neither of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head.
Don't worry about it. I'm good. Zachary, did you see anything back there?
Oh, that what happened in the ballroom? Or...
No, not that. In the foyer, right behind. Never mind. You go ahead of me. Someone has to warn him. I'll just catch a cab on my own.
Warn him of what? Wait, Rebecca, did you forget something in there? I can...
I turn away and walk before he can stop me with word of protest. It's not wise. Coming back, that is. Especially after what happened. But Hannah's still an old friend, and Luke's neither a friend nor an enemy. Just an acquaintance who doesn't deserve whatever misfortune that letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabella's right. She's real, and there's something she wants from everyone who's read that.
What took you so long? Let's go. I'll get the both of you back to the city.
My mistake. The second his voice cuts through the crisp night air, is that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming with my purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march toward him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him.
Shouldn't we be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him if he'd shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, giving me a sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amid the thick tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself. But don't you dare think this will be the end of this. We'll talk about this tomorrow, and you better have a proper answer for me by then.
No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply stomp over to his car and climb inside, slamming the door behind me with as much force my anger can show. They both follow after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salem Well. Zachary is asked to be dropped off first, the moment we've entered downtown Luxbourne. Though he never mentions anything and has only words to have thanks for us, he probably doesn't want to get caught in another spat between Ashton and I. It's all too clear on his face, the poor man. I'll have to apologize for subjecting him to that some other time. I think he's all hoping we'll be able to fix this without him around. Oh, how wrong he is. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no clue what to do when he lights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park on shore. It almost seems like he's having an eternal debate, whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away, purely out of spite, the second I've gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late, and Ashton's flats is on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not too cruel to put up with another long drive. Especially when he still appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a wary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile in the process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no. Please.
This again? It's been a week, Becca.
I thought we already agreed that was a dumb Halloween prank. No need to bring in the old guy.
Of course he's still skeptical. Makes one wonder if he's ever seen anything at all. Figures his curse will stay away from the scoffer. But this is another loose end tonight that I can't just leave alone, Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No, but this is...
I've spent so many years with him to know this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead. Although, I know he has a whole case of it prepared inside of his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movements when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too... conflicted?
Are you really sure?
What?
That there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go! And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things aren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by a light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I'm left staring after him. There's something in the way he asked it that nags. Coupled with his expression, the whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even as I gather my thoughts and shift my focus to another, even as I dial Professor Andrew's number. My body freezes.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumpling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by cold, seeping dread spreading through my limbs. But more than the fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me. And more than once, I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there isn't a wall behind me, I'll probably take a step back. Anything to put a distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself. Because if I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I am not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook. This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight. Come at me.
I expect she'll lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives is a smile, twisted and gnarling. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the sight of it. A split-second decision, and before I know it, my body shifts. My eyes closing in anticipation, hand grabbing whatever's solid enough on the nearby table and hurling it at her. I don't bother looking at whatever I threw hit its mark. I run, as fast as my legs can carry me, despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in this maze of bookshelves, with the whole place almost void of people, is there even a place safe enough that I can escape to? So the last time we headed for the door, and that proved to be the right decision. But we're all about making the wrong decision this time, so... There are people upstairs, aren't they? The weekend staff or some volunteers? There should be. Even if it's a Sunday and I'm only here on a special permit, there should be at least one other person manning this place. I heard them a while ago. Of course, I couldn't possibly tell them about this. They won't believe me in the same manner I didn't buy but Isabella's stories until it's too late. But I can easily come up with excuses. For now, what's important is I don't end up trapped and alone with her.
Safety in numbers, as they say.
There's no hesitation in my steps as I race upstairs, ears straining for any signs or sounds of the woman appearing, jumping at me again at any second. I can still hear her behind me, grinding the bones, her whispers as she keeps calling me back. Although it's at a distance, I don't slow my pace. Library rules be damned. Because no matter how much I pretend to be brave, the level-headed one, or the tough one, this terrifies me. This scares me more than anything. This isn't how I plan to die. When I get to the third floor, only silence welcomes me, and an emptiness that stretches out far too wide, spanning the entirety of the floor for it to be reassuring. Just behind me, somewhere in the foot of the stairs, panic rises up my throat. No other way now but up. So I bolt, desperately kicking in without warning. I take 2 steps at a time, tripping clumsily over some of it in my last-ditch attempt to escape. But I know. At the back of my mind, I know all of this is futile. With every footfall, with every ragged breath, with every pounding of my heart, it gets hammered into my mind. And it only becomes clearer to me once the door at the end opens, revealing the vast expanse of Luxbourne's early morning skyline, and with her treading at my heels, blocking my only way out.
Stay away from me!
A useless plea. Does she even understand a word I say? Can she even? Is she still human in the first place? Somehow I doubt it. Because no human being will ever do this. And if she ever was, with what she did to Isabella, I don't believe an ounce of it still remains in her. Simply imagining what she's capable of doing to us, I never want to give her that chance.
I'm telling you to back off!
Her gait is slow as she walks forward, each stride accompanied by a sound of breaking bones, of blood oozing from wounds that never found healing. And with every inch she draws nearer, and even as I pull away to take back what little distance I can between us, the smile on her merely grows wider. A mocking gesture. For me, she may be less of a human now, but I'm pretty sure she's fully aware she's got me cornered. She wouldn't even bother making it here if she isn't. But I can't look away. I can't bring myself to, even as the heel of my shoe eventually hits the edge. End of the line. Trapped. Alone. So this is how it ends, huh? Quietly and without fanfare. Surrounded not by a warm breeze, but a chilly morning air. No soft footfalls on an empty hallway. The din of the early morning traffic below. No warm afternoon light. Nothing but the cold, pungent smell of death. All underneath a dreary morning sun. How fitting. Yet amid all of it, there's a single voice I want to hear. If only for the last time.
Becca?
Hey, did I wake you up?
No, I left you a voicemail, so I thought, where are you?
The one I grew up with. Who always got better grades than I did without even trying. Whose silly antics I have put up with all these years. Who stood by me even when things got tougher. That one person who's been a constant in my life.
Ash, do you remember that one time?
The what?
Back in secondary, we found a dog that one time, didn't we? I think his name was Coco.
I think so. Wait, that dog has a name?
I think that comes with having an owner, Ash.
I'm more surprised you remembered. Seriously, what brought this on? Are you planning to get one soon?
Nothing. It's just the first thing I remembered. It was after that thing with Mandy, wasn't it?
So weird. Of all the things to remember, it's those with something unpleasant in them. But he was there in all of them, and even then, I already knew how I felt about him. Despite everything, my lips curled into a smile, faint and sad little thing on its own, given the situation. Because even at the very end, I know I have this. The little memories, those smiles I've always been fond of, and several years worth of simply being with him. Even if he stands in a place far away from me now, far from how we used to be as children. If only I'd been selfish enough back then. If only I told him how I've always felt. Then perhaps I won't be regretting anything now.
I thought you still don't like Mandy. You're acting weird today, Becca. Whatever. Listen, I need you to go home right away. I'm at Salem Well right now and...
I wish time would simply stop for us. There's still a lot of things I want to say. Things I never bothered saying aloud. Things I should have said a long time ago to someone who has always been by my side. But in this moment, there's only one. And if it means I'll have to be selfish, then...
I'm sorry. This will be the last.
For what, exactly? Becca, what's gotten into you?
I'm in love with you.
Huh? What are you going on about?
Since that time in secondary, since you stood in front of me and defended me, since I made that promise to never leave, I've always truly loved you.
Can this wait for a bit? God damn it, Rebecca, where are you?
A soft click. And I'm closing my eyes. There's a rush of air. Sound of the world dimming around me. Like a song coming to its inevitable end.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, My fair lady.
Welp. She jumped. She unalived herself before the ghost girl could do it for her. I mean, she wasn't wrong when she said she was the tough one. You've unlocked a memory fragment. Oh no. No, 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 no. No, 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 you assholes. Put that cat down. Okay, we're back at the main menu, and the reason why we're back at the main menu is because I realized, having finished this latest playthrough for Rebecca, that we never actually saw what happens if she gets killed by Hannah being possessed. So we're gonna quickly jump into that real quick. Except the one that greets me isn't who I'm expecting.
Hannah? Oh, Becky, sweetie. Why would you ever run away from me? The trek up here must be exhausting, isn't it? You poor, poor darling.
The voice is the same. Even the look. Yet nothing about this Hannah screams of the Hannah I know. She exudes none of the sweetness or cordiality she always has with her. Even when faced with people she hardly knows. If I have not seen what I've seen, heard what I'd heard this past week, I'd very likely brush this jarring disconnect to the odd weather. However, something's off with her, and my mind is screaming the space between us is best kept for now.
Why don't you come here, sweetie? Downstairs with me?
Nope.
I can't.
Oh, why ever not?
Please, Hannah. Just leave.
Don't be such a spoilsport, honey. Don't you want to catch up? It's been years since we've seen each other, hasn't it? Don't you miss big sister Hannah?
Maybe some other time, Hannah. I'm here on important business.
Important business, she says. Little Becky all grown up. Now she's learning to meddle. Tell me, darling, what did the curious girl find out?
I don't think that's any of your business.
Oh, believe me, it is. It is now.
Especially if it involves my darling prince.
She laughs, her features contorting into something horrid, close to grotesque. A twisted little thing completely removed from the person I've met not a day ago. This isn't Hannah. She's gone. And this little fact causes me to take a wary step back. Since when? She appeared okay at the housewarming party. And as annoying and overbearing as her husband is, I feel sorry for the ballhead. He might be an asshole, but he doesn't deserve this. Hannah doesn't deserve this.
What's wrong, Becky? You look like you've seen a ghost.
She might have. She might as well have.
All I'm asking is what brought you here at this hour. Of course, if you didn't do anything wrong, we wouldn't be having this problem, yes?
Stay away from me!
I use this plea. Does she even understand what I say? Can she even? Is she still human in the first place? Somehow I doubt it. Because no human being will ever do this.
You and your friends have become such a nuisance to our lives. Even Zach, the pitiful bastard, and I trusted him.
What did you do to Zachary?
Oh, he's in a good place now. So do me a favor, sweetie, and come with me. I promise it'll be worth your while.
Simply imagining what she's capable of doing to us. I never wanted to give her the chance.
I'm telling you to back off!
How rude. I'm sure Mumsy Gales wouldn't be happy about that. Please be a good girl now.
Her gait is slow as she walks forward. But with every inch she draws nearer, even as I pull back, even as I pull away to take it back what little distance I can between us, the smile on her merely grows wider. A mocking gesture. than me. She may be less of a human now, but I'm pretty sure she's fully aware she's got me cornered. She wouldn't even bother making it here if she didn't. But I can't look away. I can't bring myself to, even as the heel of my shoe eventually hits the edge. End of the line. Trapped. Alone. So this is how it ends, huh? Quiet and without fanfare. Surrounded not by a warm breeze, but a chilly morning air. No soft footfalls on an empty hallway, but the din of an early morning traffic below. No warm afternoon light. Nothing but the cold, pungent smell of death, all underneath a dreary morning sky. How fitting. Yet amidst all of it, there's a single voice I want to hear. If only for the last time.
Becca?
Hey, did I wake you up?
No, I left you a voicemail, so I thought, where are you?
The one I grew up with. Who always got grades better than I did without even trying. Whose silly antics I have to put up with all these years. Who stood by me even when things got tougher. The one person who's been a constant in my life.
Ash, do you remember that one time?
The what?
Back in secondary, we joined a contest back then, didn't we? We had to dress you up as a girl and...
No.
No, I want to hear this. Continue.
What? You looked really pretty. I think I still have that picture somewhere.
Burn it. We're not talking about that again. You promised. Seriously, what brought this on?
Nothing. It's just the first thing I remembered.
So weird. Despite everything, my lip curls up into a smile. Faint. And it's a sad thing on its own given the situation. Because even at the end, even at the very end, I know I have this. Casual talk, the friendly banter. Talking like how we always would as children. If only I haven't been too selfish. If only I hadn't taken all of this for granted in favor of my feelings. Then perhaps I wouldn't be regretting anything now.
You're being weird today, Becca. Whatever. Listen, I need you to go home right away. I'm at Salem Well right now and...
I wish time would simply stop for us. There are still a lot of things I want to say. Things I've never bothered saying aloud. Things I should have said a long time ago to someone who has always been by my side. But in this moment, there's only one.
Thanks, Ash.
Hold on, did I do something?
For everything.
Rebecca, what?
I'm so glad to have known you.
Wait, what are you? God damn it, Rebecca, where are you?
Soft click. And I'm closing my eyes. There's a rush of air. Sound of the world dimming around me. Like a song coming to its inevitable end.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down. London Bridge is falling down, my fair lady.